Hello friends, I've got a fun video for you this week. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that last year I set out to create myself a handmade wardrobe, and if there's one thing any wardrobe needs, it's a great pair of denim. It is Monday morning, I've got the day free, and I am going to take you along with me while I attempt to sew myself a pair of jeans. My name is Kelsey, I'm a creative living on Vancouver Island, Canada. I love to sew and knit my own clothes, and on this channel I'm sharing the process of creating myself a handmade wardrobe. So I have put together a fairly simplified list of things you would need to do before sewing yourself a pair of jeans. So the first step would be to select a pattern. I am going to use the Coe Trouser from Daughter Judy. The next step would be to gather your fabric, supplies, and notions. So I have already done that. One of my recent videos, I went to Victoria and I purchased this dark denim. It is definitely not black, but close. I am going to sew the jeans in this. I am using a fabric from my stash for the pocket bag. So it's just this kind of neutral colored gingham. I have two options for top stitching thread. So one of them is like more that classic goldy brown top stitching thread that you'd see on denim. And the other one is this ivory colored, bone colored top stitching thread. So I think I'm going to use this just to keep the project a little bit more on the neutral side. See those two together. I've got a zipper. I need to get a jeans button. I have one, I'm sure in my stash. I'm hoping I have a silver one, so that's what I would prefer to use. And then I also need to order this like little hook or loop for the belt. So this pattern has a optional belt and there's a little metal loop that you use to fasten the belt. I don't have that. I haven't been able to find one in person, so I will need to order that online, but I figure I can finish the bulk of the jeans. I could even finish sewing the belt and then order that belt loop just to finish them off. The next step would be to print your pattern. So I prefer to print the A0 pattern at a local copy shop. I've already done that and I've got the pattern here. Determine your size and decide if you want to do any alterations. So my waist is 28, my hips at my hip bone are 36, and then the widest part of my hip, which is more sort of in line with the crotch of the jeans, is 41 inches. So I've decided to sew myself a size 8. I think I probably could get away with a size 6, but I think it's probably better to size up, and then I can always make them a little bit smaller if I need to. There are a few alterations that I almost always do on pants. So I am fairly long torsoed and my extra height is from the waist to my seat. So I always add space to the rise. I'm going to add an inch. I think I could probably add 2 inches, but because I've never made these pants before, I'm going to start with an inch and see how we do. The pattern is drafted for someone who is 5'6". I'm 5'9". So in theory, I would need to add 9 inches to get the achieved length of the denim of the pants. I'm going to add the inch in the rise, and then I'm going to add 1 inch in the legs. So I'm an inch short, but because they are a full length denim, I'm okay with them being slightly like cropped or ankle length. So I think I'm okay with just adding 2 inches. I also added like a tiny bit of fabric in the crotch curve just to add a little bit more room there for comfort when sitting. So one thing to note is that this pattern does call for a rigid or non-stretch denim, and I have selected a fabric that does not have any perpendicular to grain or with grain stretch, but it does have some cross grain stretch to it. So it's not exactly what the designer recommends, but I'm gonna give it a try. I definitely prefer there to be like a little bit of give in my denim if I want to, get a lot of wear out of them and find them more comfortable. So I'm hoping this works. I think with that, I probably could have made the size 6, but we're just gonna give it a try. And if anything, I may just quickly baste together the stitches just to see what I've got before adding the pockets and the zippers, just to see how they fit. So the next step, once you've determined your size, in my case, is to trace and cut your pattern pieces. So I do not like to cut into the copy shop version because they are quite expensive to print. And if I want to make it in a different size, I still have that intact. So I ordered some tracing paper from Amazon. I trace out the pattern onto tissue, and that's what I use to cut out the fabric. So I've actually already done that. I did that last night just to make things a bit easier today. The next step would be to cut your interfacing, pocket lining, and main fabric. So I did cut out the pocket bags, as you've seen. I've cut out the interfacing. I've decided not to interface the belt just to give the pants like a little bit more give, less structure in the waist. But I did do the interfacing piece for the zipper. So all I have left to do is cut out the main fabric and sew the pants. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. It is 9:30. I still need to eat breakfast, and I plan to get started around 10, and I think I will add some time stamps to this video just so you know how long it takes me to sew them. I do have a couple rules for today. So the first one is that I still need to do some other things like walk my dogs, eat food, and keep the house like sort of tidy and go to bed at a reasonable time. So I think you can, if you're a crafter, you can probably relate to this, that it's pretty easy to get kind of lost or knee deep in a project and sort of forget to put your head up and look around and see what else you could be doing. So I'm not going to get too fixated on this project, and I'm still going to do the other little things I have to do in my life. And then the second thing is that I have not sewn a muslin for these pants, so my expectations can't be too high. I didn't spend a whole lot. The denim was $50, and I had almost everything else in my stash. So if the pants don't work out, it's not the end of the world, and I can always attempt to make them again. This pattern is, this fabric is still available at Gala Fabrics, so we're not going to be too hard on ourselves if it doesn't work out. So I'm going to eat breakfast and get started, and I will touch base soon. Okay, I did talk about basting these pants together just to make sure that they weren't too big. I have laid the back panel out and the front panel on top of them just so that you can get an idea. So the back panel does wrap around to the front, which is part of what creates that really interesting barrel shape. And just looking at them, I don't think they're going to be like way too big, and I think I should probably just proceed without basting. So the issue is that once I sew the pocket onto this front piece, it will be very hard to take any width off this piece. But just thinking about it in real time, I could still take width off the back piece. So I do have some options if they end up being too big. It is 11:15. I believe the first step is to get started with sewing the pockets. Wow, okay, we have got there with one pocket. So you can see the pocket is in that front seam. I did the heavy top stitching in that bone colored thread. There were a couple images in the pattern that I got confused by and ended up stitching some things together and needing to rip them apart. So this first pocket ended up taking me about an hour. It is 12:15. I am going to quickly do the second one, which should be much faster now that I know what is going on. But essentially the pocket and the zipper and I guess the waistband are sort of like the more cumbersome components to this. So I think the pockets and the zipper will probably be the worst. So I've got 1 out of 2 done in terms of figuring it out. I just need to quickly sew that second one. All right, I wrapped up the zipper at about 3:30. It turned out great. There was no unpicking, which is great. I'm just taking the dogs down to the beach. There's a couple things I wanted to chat about. The first is that I have made jeans before. A couple years ago, I had a real obsession with the Persephone pants. None of those fit me anymore. I think I made 5 pairs of them. I've given most of them away. I do have one pair that I made that I try on every once in a while, and they just don't fit great. They're a little bit too small, and I don't find them comfortable. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these Coe trousers work out. The second thing I wanted to say is that for whatever reason, I'm just one of those people whose tummy fluctuates a lot during the day. I have quite sensitive digestion and had surgery recently, as many of you know. So I do just want to accept that about myself and make pants that are comfortable. So one thing that's nice about the Coe trouser is that it does have a belt. So if I make them in a comfortable size, I can always tighten the belt if I feel like they're ever too big, which is a nice kind of flexibility option. I do find post-surgery that most of my ready-to-wear jeans are loose and sitting quite a bit lower than I like. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these turn out. I've done pretty well today. I have eaten lunch. I've kept the kitchen kind of clean. I'm out here with the dogs. I am feeling a little bit tired, so I will finish up my walk, maybe do some prep for dinner, and then persevere and get a little bit more sewing done today. And I will touch base once I am back at the sewing machine. Hello, I am back from my walk, and I just quickly basted together the upper section of the pants. You can see I didn't go all the way to the bottom, and I have to say I am glad that I made the size 8 and not the size 6. I am pinching out a fair bit of fabric back here, but I haven't sewn the darts, so hopefully the darts will be roughly the same amount of material being pinched out. I am quite happy with how these have turned out. The denim is very soft and very comfortable. So I'm quite happy with my fabric choice. I'm quite happy with my size choice. I just need to pick these basted stitches out and move on to the next step, which I believe is sewing the darts and the back pockets. So I'm thinking I should be able to get that done tonight. And then they are like quite long, so we'll see how that turns out. Good morning. I did some sewing last night. I was able to sew the back darts and the back pockets. And this morning when I got up, I did this back seam to sew the 2 back panels together and did that little bit of top stitching. So the back is looking pretty nice. I've done another round of basting because now that I've got the back darts in, I just want to see how they fit. Okay, I am feeling pretty good about these. So again, I just basted together some of those seams now that I have the back pockets and darts sewn in, and I think they're fitting really great. I think there's like a little bit of extra fabric here, but to be honest, I get that in ready-to-wear jeans too, and I don't really know how I would fix it. I'm just gonna sit here. Like, they're comfortable sitting. There's like enough room for my body, which feels nice. So I don't think I would change them. And perhaps as the fabric relaxes and like even I tend to put some stuff in the dryer, you know, they might get a little bit tighter or just like relax a little bit in that area. And I think it's great to have that extra space. The next step will be just to unpick what's attaching the front and the back together so that I can sew these together and do the top stitching on them. Okay, I've sewn the waistband onto my pants. I said I wasn't going to interface it, but I did interface one side of the waistband, and I'm not 100% sure that I am happy with it. I'm sitting in the pants now. They are still comfortable, but it definitely like cinched in the waist of the pant. And I did notice that I think there was only 3/4 of an inch ease at the waist, which is okay because it's quite high. So I think my waist measured a size 4 or 6, but I made the size 8 because I just wanted that extra room. But I feel like having interfaced the waistband, it's a little bit more structured than I would like it to be around the waist. So I will show you kind of where I'm at. I've still, I've sewn on these little belt loops, but I haven't dealt with them. But you can see the pant is quite like soft and a little bit more relaxed. I'll go back so that you can see I just have them cuffed right now. I quite like the shape of them. Yeah, I like them, but I'm just finding I feel like it's just like cinched in a little bit too much. My best course of action, if I wanted to try and make the most out of these pants, would be to unpick the waistband that I have sewn on. I have enough fabric. I will just cut another waistband and sew it on. Yeah, I think I might do that. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. I don't have all day to sew today. I do have some plans this afternoon and I work for the rest of the week. So I am determined to get these pants done this week. I thought I would be able to get them done between yesterday and today, but I don't have much more to do. I just want to make sure that I get them right.
Roll out and saw muscles because I have been doing that with like massage. Really don't find that it'll look a little bit off, then injure myself. I think I'm gonna say.
Okay, I have my jeans finished. I finished them last night. All I had to do was sew the buttonhole, add the button, finish off the belt loops, and hem them. So I was able to do that after work last night, and then I did wear them to work today. They were pretty comfortable working at work where I sit most of the day. I wouldn't say they're like the most comfortable. They are still like a hard pair of jeans, but overall they were pretty good and easy to wear. I really love the denim. I definitely think I will order more of this. Gala Fabrics has it in like a mid wash and then a light wash as well. So either I'll pop down there again or I will order more of it. Let's talk a little bit about the alterations I made. So I did add an inch to the rise. I would do that again. I am happy that I didn't adjust the zipper or pockets for that. I did add an inch to the length of the pant in the cut line that was around the thigh. I wouldn't do that again. In fact, I actually might take an inch off the length. They are long, even on me at 5'9", so they were designed to be long. And in one of the images on the pattern, one of the sketches, you can tell that they are quite a long pant, like they do hit the ground. I did not do a curved waistband. So last time I shared them, I had done the curved waistband. I had interfaced half of it and I felt like it was too structured. And I know that a curved waistband like helps the pants sort of like curve into your waist and can help remove that like gaping bit at the back that a lot of people get with jeans. But I found that the way the waistband was and the way that the pants were cut, I wasn't really liking how much they cinched in. So I ended up just doing a straight waistband. So I did it the same width, but I just did like a straight rectangle of fabric and followed basically the same instructions to do it. And I'm quite happy with it. So They are not too tight on my waist. And I think too with like, even if they ended up being a bit gapey or loose, because I do want to do the belt for them, that would be fine. I'd be able to kind of tighten it up with the belt. A future video when I'm doing like a wardrobe update, I may share sort of the addition of the belt and then also how I am styling these. But I will insert a little video from today wearing them. I definitely have like a few threads hanging off of them that need to be trimmed, and I did just wear them cuffed because I think I prefer that sort of ankle length. Yeah, I'm not sure there's much else I can say. Overall, it was a fun pattern to sew. It was fun to take you guys along with me. I'll put a little note on the screen about roughly how many hours it took me to sew them. As usual, things take me longer than I think they will. Here is some of the details on the back. One thing is that my sewing machine did have a hard time like bar tacking through the multiple layers, and their tip is to just use a hammer to hammer from the wrong side and sort of like condense the fabric. And I did think that that made a difference, but it wasn't enough for my sewing machine to be able to do like a proper bar tack in those places. But I just sort of stitched back and forth, and I think the detail on them is quite nice. I am looking forward to them like softening up with wear as denim does. So I will report back in a future video about how that goes, how much this fabric softens, and whether the pants feel a little bit more comfortable with time. Again, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for commenting and liking. It's always so nice to connect with people about sewing and knitting. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again soon.